How stressful and exciting. Not on TV, but not on TV.
I know, right?
Hello, beautiful people of the internet. I'm Jess. I am perpetually tired, and I'm here today with.
Ollie, also tired and online.
And Olga, there's a thing where you're extremely good at everything. Is this something that I've been come to know?
Wouldn't say everything. Some things I'm okay at.
Most things, all things. Yeah, I'll stick with all things. And we're actually streaming today because you were going to do me a favor, which is just so kind. And you were going to help me make a new website because my website is a little bit old. What are we going to make conceptually? Oh, can I ask you a hard question?
Go for it.
And you can just yell at me. What is a website when we think about a website?
It's a very good question. I'd say a website is a collection of usually HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. I guess always HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are 3 languages. That is on a server somewhere, which is another hard concept, and which we're connecting to over the internet.
Yeah. So a bunch of documents made out of different, I was going to say imaginary languages, but all languages are a little bit imaginary. So we've got an interconnected document made of different programming languages. Oh, is HTML a programming language? No. We're not going to discuss it. So we've got a digital document, a document made of light and energy that's made out of HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. That sounds super chill. So we're going to make a document. We're going to make a book out of light today. How terrifying.
Awesome, I'd say.
Yeah. So we've got the GitHub of where that's sitting. And GitHub, what's GitHub conceptually? It's like a library for these different code documents?
Yeah, I think that's fair.
That's all right. Getting a bit too philosophical. And what we're going to use to write that is we're going to use a text editor. So the typewriter of our time to write our documents made out of light.
Yes.
I could do that. We could do that. That sounds chill. So where do we start?
Very good question. So I guess the homepage is where usually people start.
Okay. Do we need to decide what we're making it out of?
Yeah.
I've heard a bunch of stuff about websites. So we said HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Okay. But there's a bunch of different weird ways we could do that, right?
Yes. Static site generators. What else is there? Frameworks like React.
See, because lots of people have should I use React or Angular or Ember? Can I cheat and make this super easy?
You really can, yes.
I'm very old. I am exceedingly elderly. It's okay, I know. And do you know what we made websites out of when I made my first website? I love how you got very still. Where you're like, wood? Was it out of wood?
Probably out of wood.
We just made them out of HTML. CSS didn't even exist yet.
Oh my gosh, of course, yeah.
You're just like, what? So, just for folks listening, HTML is sort of the content. Like, if we're thinking about our website as a book, it's the chapters and the sentences. It's what's on the page. What's CSS then?
CSS is style, pizzazz,
So the typesetting and the illustration. Wow. Ooh, the illustration.
The illustration is content. Most of the time. Not always. CSS can do that, but I think that's out of my skill set.
Okay, see, that's where I was like, hey, can we keep it simple? And you're like, no, I refuse. So what if we just do HTML and CSS? And what if we just ignore JavaScript? If we have to do any JavaScript, and this used to drive me absolutely up a wall, because we've got all these different kinds of JavaScript. React is really JavaScript, isn't it? And so is Ember. And when I first got started, people would say, oh, let's do this in vanilla JavaScript. And I'd be like, oh no, is this a new framework?
That is very
Right. But that just means plain old JavaScript, doesn't it?
Yes, that's JavaScript on its own.
Yeah. So let's start with just HTML and CSS. And if we have to, if we absolutely must, just a little tiny bit of plain old JavaScript.
Sprinkle.
This. Oh, good. Here's Ramon, who is the nicest young man on the internet, but he's also like, oh, I also thought. Obviously, he's lying, but he's doing it to make me feel nice. So Ramon's like, oh, I thought vanilla JavaScript was a framework as well. Because he was born knowing everything. It's terribly unfair. So, because you're the expert, would it be fair? Because we're going to be doing pair programming, right?
Yeah.
What's that?
Pair programming is when one person, usually one person drives, so types the code, and then one person instructs the other person on what to do, and they work together.
Instruct?
Or a piece of software.
So a bossy person and a long-suffering person.
Yes.
Oh, I think I know who I want to be. Would it be a bother if I asked you very, very nicely to drive today, and then we'll maybe trade tomorrow and drive?
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Yeah. So all we know so far is we want to make a website. We want to make it of HTML and CSS, and that's chill. We know what we're doing. Because we could do some weird stuff with that. Like we could use, there's not just JavaScript frameworks. There's CSS frameworks now.
Yes.
And then there's like CSS generating doofers, which are complicated, and let's, as simple as possible. What if we do a really chill session today where we just sort of get out the sort of basic framework of what does this website need and sort of the requirements process, if that makes sense?
Yeah. Good idea.
And Oli's nodding because they're really, really good at this. You'll be like, yeah, obviously. I'd be like, look, obviously. We just do this in a really laid back way. Nothing bad is going to happen. We've got some people hanging out, beautiful people hanging out. What should we do first to get this started? Yeah.
Very good question. Well, open the code editor and think about what we're going to do, I guess.
Yeah, nothing sparks creativity like a blank page. Or pressure or stress. Yeah, let's get that open. And there's no pressure, there's no stress. The nice thing about making a website for fun is that there's literally no way to fail.
That's very true.
Even when it doesn't work, it just doesn't work.
That's a good point.
Oh gosh, I'm so sorry. I was saying, oh, let's get that text editor up. And it was me that had to push that button. I'm rubbish. So here, we've got a file explorer. I get it. So and this is the same as that GitHub we were looking at.
Yeah, it's a different way of doing this cycle.
You're such an absolute and perfect and complete angel that you're actually helping me make my own website that I haven't updated since. So if somebody wants to follow on, or people can steal this code, right? It's fine.
Yes, exactly.
Going to github.com/Oxenfree/Jess-website. Cool. And really the only thing we have right now is a blank document that's a README.
Yes.
And this is just sort of our note to ourselves, and it doesn't say anything yet. Nothing bad is happening. But when we think about a website, we think about it being a series of documents that are served together off a server. The HTML and the CSS are literally files, aren't they?
Yes, they are.
Oh, how scary and weird. Should we start HTML and CSS files then?
Yes, let's do that. So I need to do index to HTML.
Yeah, and this is sort of a weird convention where the main page of your webpage, if I go to, this is going to be at jessica.tech. If I go to jessica.tech, the HTML document it's going to serve up by default is going to be this index.html. Cool.
Yes.
And I remember there's a bunch of stuff we've got to do to make this work. For folks who are brand new to making websites, it's fine. I mean, I was going to say none of this can hurt you, but that's a lot. None of this can hurt you until you have to do it as a job. Our HTML tags, sort of the specifications for what we're putting on the page, exist within these little pointy babbies, right? The little Pac-Man brackets.
Exactly.
Yeah, a dog type, that's what I was thinking. Because the first thing we do is we scream, hey, this document, the type of this document is HTML. Cool. And then maybe we need to set a head and a body, or a header and a body. Oh dear.
Header.
You can tell I'm very 1998 in my heart, where I'm like, header? What do we do now?
Wait.
And what we're doing right. I've never been right ever, but I appreciate it. Because the header is what we would have done back in my day, huh?
Header goes within the body.
Yeah. What, do people even use them anymore?
I think they do. Like people trying to write semantic another fancy word. So yeah.
Oh, so I'm really excited. What does semantic mean?
Semantic means that it does what it says it does. So if it's a header, it's a header, rather than using things like div for like container elements, which could be anything. You say like if it's a footer, use a footer.
So it's sort of easier for computers to read, but semantic means it carries the meaning with it, which I'm really excited about. And divs, we'll do those in a minute. I mean, hopefully we won't do too many. But divs are just like weird empty boxes on your website, right? You can put stuff in them and wiggle them around. Yeah. But whenever you've got an HTML tag, whenever you've got one of these little pre-specified Pac-Man doofers, very technical, you should use the most specific one possible. I think so.
Yes.
Okay. So within the head, I think we need a title.
That's a very good point.
You are so patient. Let me just be lazy. Be like, ha ha ha, if you could drive. The absolute boldness. How unacceptable.
We need a H1, right?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was that? What did you say? Sorry? I was
going to say a title, like up in the header, but you're absolutely right about the H1 as well.
That's very true, yes.
I think the title probably has to live in the head.
That's really true. I think I'm too used to having my HTML auto-generated.
Oh, that sounds like a really good way to live.
Yes.
And you know what? We don't have to, and this is something I see a lot of times when people are building websites for the first time. Not even the first time. When I say people, I mean me. What we can do is we can just add placeholders.
That's very true.
So yeah, like we can decide on this content later on. So for the title, we can just say the title, right?
Yep.
And this will show up when we preview, and previewing it's going to be super cool. Yes. And I saw a second ago you did an H1. And I think these are really cool because these are so tricky with semantics.
Yes.
So we've got an H1 is a header. So it'll be like big and bold, unless we change the styling. And that should be the most important header on the page.
Yes.
Technically, nobody's stopping us from having more than one H1, but we shouldn't do it.
Exactly.
Cool. That's best practices, isn't it? Where you're like, look, the programming language will let you do this, but don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah. Generally, the H1 is sort of the top line, and it often echoes the title. Should we just say the title again and not worry about it for now? Yeah. I'm very lazy. Energy efficient, I like to think. So, what else goes on a website? If we're thinking about it as a book, which is terribly old-fashioned, do you know that's actually kind of how we thought about websites when they first came out? Oh gosh, I'm finally old enough to do this. Back in my day, we used to have these little orange animated GIFs, because animated GIFs are very new. You know what they actually were? And it was really popular to have a little animated GIF of a little construction dude, like a little orange construction sign stick figure. And it would say under construction, because we had this sort of publishing mindset that you're like, okay, I'm still working on my website now, but I'll get to a point where it's done and then it'll be a fixed document like a book. Which is it's totally how websites work today, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to be how this website works, where we finish it and they're like, yay, I'm free for another 4 years. But we probably need some more text, right?
Yes.
Yeah. And so far, looking at the tags we put down, you think, oh, head, we wrote head, body, we wrote body, heading 1. You might think like T for text. And that would be reasonable, but I bet it's a P, isn't it?
Yes, P paragraph.
And here oh gosh, what are you using for your text editor?
I'm using VS Code, which is made by Microsoft and is quite popular.
It's quite good. It's all the cool kids. If nobody's looking, I'll still use Sublime, which is a lot like using an electric typewriter in 2003. And text editors are a lot like, yeah, they're pretty much I'm going to be wrong out loud. They're kind of the same as word processors in that, hang on. You could use Word or you could use Google Docs. All these different things to write prose text. We could use all these different ones to write code. And it's all usually pretty okay, pretty samey. And if somebody watching is just downloading this for the first time, you've got a beautiful theme. Like, they shouldn't expect it to be vampire colored right out of the box, should they?
No, they shouldn't.
But you can do fancy things with colors. And I'm going to get a new computer soon, so I'll probably stream, here's how you set up a text editor. Here's how you set up Git, just to see whether or not I'll swear. So
that's clever.
Yeah. Do we have to put our text in now, or can we just say, I'll come back later and put text here?
Definitely put in later.
Yeah. When I first started making websites, one thing that absolutely blew my mind is I saw a bunch of websites that had Latin on them. I was like, okay. And it took me, let me find it and put it in the chat. Laura, yeah. So there's actually a piece of Latin which is sort of traditional, in as much as websites have traditions. As a placeholder, we say, hey, I'm definitely going to come and do this later, but I'm not doing it right now. Yeah, so this kind of Latin text was really, really popular back in the day. Back in the 90s, it's still popular. But yeah, I'm not going to try and read it because I'm rubbish, but it really blew my mind when I was like, what's going on here? So we've got a picture. Oh, can we have a picture?
Oh, yes, definitely. What do you want a picture of?
Ooh. Can we do a placeholder picture as well?
Yeah.
I'm just cheating the whole way where I'm like, we'll think about it later. Oh, image. And for the longest time when I was younger, I thought SRC meant screen. But is it source?
I think it's source.
I think it's source as well these days. And I think I learned that embarrassingly late, where I was like, image source. Somebody else was like, or image screen source.
Oh.
Fair.
Yeah.
And there's some other stuff we need to do, because right now, actually, do you know what? Can we see what this website looks like?
Yes, we can.
Ooh. And one thing I have a hard time with when I teach is the concept of stuff on the web. So right now, this does not exist on the internet. Right now, this is a file on your computer, not mine.
Yes.
So what you're doing is you're accessing this specific file. Ooh, so here's the GitHub. Very cool.
Here's our delightful.
Yeah. If you see we see like a file path up in the address bar instead of a web address, because it's living on your computer still. That's fine. Everything's. when I talk to folks and they're sort of breaking out of tutorials, something I often hear is, "Where's my website?" Or, "It's cool. It's cool. It's on your computer. Nothing bad has happened." You love how much I lie, right? Where I'm like, computers can't hurt you. Nothing's wrong. Nothing's bad. Okay, so we've got, and I can see up at the top of this tab as well that it says the title. So the title tag is working. That's super cool.
Yeah.
And then we've got the title. That's our H1.
Yes.
And then we've got our little to be decided. Cool. So because this is a file on our computer, we'll have to save a picture, a file of a picture. We're going to have to save a picture to our computer and have it in the same folder so we can go and get it.
Or we can choose a link from the internet and link to that. One of the two.
Ooh, are we gonna hot link? Are we gonna hot link?
Probably.
Let's do that this time. But as a general rule, we're not going to do that for, I mean, it's a little bit rude.
True.
But also, it's pretty dangerous. It's reasonably high risk.
Yes,
so if you hot link to a picture I've stored on my server, nothing's keeping me from changing the file name of a super offensive picture. If I have a picture of roses on my website, it's like roses.gif, and you link to that picture. There's nothing stopping me from uploading a new roses.gif that's just lots of butts. Obviously, I would never
totally do that.
So I'm going to look for a Wikimedia picture of a tapir. You still shouldn't hot link to Wikimedia. They're good people. We're gonna take this out, I promise. But tapirs are my favorite non-scary animal.
What's your favorite scary animal?
I really like giant isopods. They're like toaster-sized wood lice that live underwater. Ugh. See, even saying that's not good.
I like stonebills. People hate them as well.
A what?
Is that what they're called?
Stone.
No, I'm thinking of the wrong thing.
Oh, the
Creepy birds. Treebill.
Oh, yeah. Respectfully, no, thank you. We could hot link to a picture of one of your favorite terrifying birds.
I thought you wanted to have it appear.
You know what? This is much more intimidating, much more assertive.
Treebill. Okay, I'll look for a Wikipedia one. So you're right, they're less likely to change it to something horrible. Well, more horrible.
Oh, and look at that one where it's just being very, very fancy. And what we're doing here is we're stealing the image address, so copying the image address. Obviously, we're not supposed to steal. But we're going to copy that into the... Oh, Platypus uses XKCD as placeholder images because the cartoonist encourages hot linking.
That's cool.
That's neat as heck. Oh, also Platypus is just a sweetheart. If you ever want somebody to be consistently technically correct in a stream. Okay, so alt text. We've talked about this a bunch of times when I teach. And this is like the language that describes the picture. Can we see that picture one more time?
Yes.
So you're so patient, me just being a bully and making you drive. Okay, so that is a large gray bird with a, I don't know, like a beak that looks like a big wooden shoe.
That work.
I don't know how to describe this. Where I'd just be like, look, it's functionally a monster. Large monster.
Large monster. A large.
Yeah. And this is, who's going to use this alt text?
People who either are using screen readers, have, in some browsers, if you hover over the image, I think it shows you alt text here.
Yeah. So folks who are relying on an audio experience for your website instead, so folks with visual impairments maybe, or there is a non-zero chance that when I start using this website, I bet I'll screw something up. So if your image is broken for some reason, you also get that alt text, don't you? That's super chill. And and this is something I screw up all the time. We need to save it before we look at it again, don't we?
We do.
So if it's just a good old fashioned Control S or I've got a Windows keyboard. So if it's a 4 square button and then S. And then if we check our being a fuss, you've got Anki, you're going to have to tell me what language you're learning.
I'm actually learning about the Life in the UK test, so less fun.
Oh, that is less fun. Okay. It's not going to be relevant for your Life in the UK test, but we've got a title, a heading for the title, us saying, hey, we're definitely going to do this text later, and a big picture. This feels like a website.
It does.
What if, and I'm conscious that I'm taking up your lunch break, so I just want to do this in a really laid-back way. What if we talk about what we need this website to do? Because like most websites don't have a single page, do they?
No. You can get single page applications, but
yeah, but I'm not writing an application. Those are like programs that live on the web that do stuff, and like obviously you have that level of not just competency but extreme skill, and me over here, I both I either lack the skill or the determination. So it's a polite way to say lazy. How about, yeah, do you know what? This is actually replacing existing website. Can I ask you to head over to jessica.tech? Because I don't even remember what other pages exist on my site. Hey, cool. Writing, work, speaking, email. What's that heart do?
Credits.
Oh, that's quite nice. Past me was significantly nicer than I actually am. Hang on. And I think there's a way in HTML for us to write ourselves a note, isn't there? Or would it make more sense to do that in the README? Where would we put a to-do list?
Probably put it in the README because it's reading my code every time.
Yeah. I love the way you're like, nah. So we're going to go back we're going to go back and reopen this other file. Ooh.
That's not HTML comment, is it?
It's the Pac-Man doofer. Yeah.
So it's a bit light colored, so let's not do that.
Yeah. So, and the biggest lie in programming is a to-do, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh, no. To-do and fix me are the biggest lies. So folks who are just getting into programming, you're just making it a website. And I'm not picking on beginners. The worst people for this are, to do. I'm going to leave myself a little sticky note to go back and write the documentation later, which always happens, right?
Yes.
Or, hey, please fix this thing later. And it's the most embarrassing when it's, sorry?
5 years later, still not fixed.
Mm-hmm. So we need a writing page. And actually, that's a blog. I was going to ask for your help because you use Bear Blog.
Yes, I do.
And that looked really good. That's really stripped down. So we're going to have to integrate external services. How terrifying.
Very
Writing,
simple.
speaking.
Speaking.
Yeah. Oh, it's spelling. Writing, speaking, work, because I got to work to eat. Credits. Do you know who's going to have to be in my credits page for the new site?
Me.
I mean, obviously, I hope you're already in it. Be like, yeah, I try not to brag too much about knowing cooler, smarter people than me. So I had that in the credits page in my heart. Credits contact, which is always a mistake. You don't really want people from the internet to get in touch, do you? I mean, obviously, everybody watching right now, yeah, we'd invite them around for pizza, but we're talking about those other people on the internet. But and then I think I've got like a link to my social media, but I could just put a little birdie on there later. It's fine. Yeah, that feels. Oh, we've got a homepage though.
Oh, true.
I love the way you're like, oh no, I've got to write up actual proper. And I'm like, well, we've mostly done that. So really what we could do is take a look at this plan. And that's 4. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So, I mean, the social media link, I can just link. That's somebody else's webpage. They got to maintain that. I'm not in charge of that.
Very true. So 5.
Yeah. And so we could just go ahead and create those HTML files right now, really zippy, or we can come back and do it tomorrow. What would be the easiest for you?
You can just make them now.
Yeah, all right. And that's very literally new file. And we talked about semantic HTML carrying that extra meaning. So we're literally going to name them. It's what it says on the tin. So yes. Our page, our chapter for writing is just going to be called writing. That seems really laid back.
Yeah. Speaking can be speaking.
Yeah. Oh gosh, well, credit can be credit. Oh, yeah. I've completely forgotten about work, which sounds like me.
Credits or credit?
I do not have a firm opinion.
Do you want work to work or projects?
Oh, work, I think, yeah. Project sounds much, much fancier than I really think of myself as. And when I think of the projects I actually do, I'll be like, I learned to play the ukulele. And that doesn't quite count, does it? That's not a serious grown-up thing.
Oh, that's right.
That is where I'm going after this stream, though, is to do a ukulele lesson.
That's nice.
It's not for a Monday when grown-ups should be at work. So this is all very, very laid back. Okay, cool. And since it's lunchtime, I want to be really conscious for folks who do need to get some lunch, or for folks who are just waking up and need to get a coffee. Oh, somebody has got my back and saying, oh, do you know what? Playing the ukulele is very grown up.
Yes, exactly.
I'm reasonably sure that the tax office is not going to be like, oh, you were playing the ukulele. Of course, you don't have to pay us. I mean, you've been busy. So until that date, I might leave it off. Oh, do you know what? Dan makes a really good point. Can I ask for one more thing on this website?
Yes.
Maybe can I have a page for non-work interests? What would we call that?
Hobbies, projects.
Ooh, human stuff. Oh,
human.
No. Fun.
Fun. That's good.
It's not like games, but it's fun for me. I'm not thinking very much about the user experience on this, where you'll be like, oh, cool. Here's a link for fun. You get to it and be like, oh, that's somebody else having fun. Yeah. Do you know what? Can I change fun to downtime?
Yes.
Because a lot of the things I do in my free time are not actually fun. I've been doing more and more reading in my second language, and that is not fun. It's getting there.
What language?
Japanese, which is,
Oh,
yeah. Do you know about the State Department classification of languages?
yes.
For folks who might not, the US State Department is unsurprisingly big on language teaching, and they've got a table for how hard different languages are for English speakers to learn. And because I hate relaxing, I tend to learn stuff at the bottom of the table that's nice and hard. French
No.
next. Hold on, just come right up, right up.
I'm learning French. It's very hard. For
Oh,
me.
is it? No. Oh, no.
I'm sure it's easy in Japanese, but it's still hard for me.
But you're good at everything. Are you being like really hard on yourself with language learning? You'd be like, no, I absolutely am. This feels like an okay place to stop for the day, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So if y'all want to come back, we're just going to keep streaming little bit by little bit. And this is part of me extremely unkindly. This is me trying to be mean and bully Olu into streaming. So if you're watching this on YouTube, going ahead and following for the next stream and clamoring, Olu, hey, keep streaming, or doing the exact same thing on Twitch might be the best way to help me scale up being mean to Olu and demanding more and more brilliance on the web. Fabulous. Oh gosh, and please be mean to Olu in the nicest possible way. So only gentle, kind bullying. Shall I let you go and come hang out with you at lunchtime again tomorrow?
Yeah, sounds good to me. Hope you have a good lunch and a daily lesson.
Oh gosh, and thank you so much. I would have just delayed on this for a million years, and you're out here saving me. I appreciate this, and I appreciate you, and goodbye, everybody.